Hello everybody, in the today's video I would like to talk about the most strong and bad enemy of our beloved tone, the most relevant weakness of our amp simulator plugins, which is aliasing. You won't believe how much aliasing can ruin your tone. We will talk about NAMM, Neural DSP and Mercurial audio plugins, sharing the different strategies we can use to deal with aliasing. Let's start. First of all, what is aliasing? I would start making you listen to aliasing and then I will provide you with some theory. This is an aliasing test waveform that I have downloaded from the website AudioCheck. This is how it sounds without any plugin in the chain. And please keep the volume low. Okay, let's now add in the chain the Mercurial audio plugin, which is one of the best plugins I know in terms of aliasing management. And I will show you why in a couple of minutes. Can you hear all the artifacts added, especially where highlighted in the screen? This is aliasing. Okay, how can we avoid aliasing or how can we reduce it? Well, with a technique which is called oversampling. The Mercurial audio plugin has an oversampling function built in. Let's put it at 8 and compare the two waveforms. Aliasing is still present, but it is much lower, and the waveform is much clearer, both in the low frequencies and in the higher ones. As I said, the Mercurial audio plugin has an oversampling or an anti-aliasing function built in. But what can we do if our plugin does not have it? Well, we can even use another plugin which is called Meta plugin to obtain the same result. Let's try it out. I have removed the oversampling function from the Mercurial plugin, adding it to the Meta plugin. As you may notice, we are obtaining basically the same result. And now let's talk about Neural DSP. Here we have the Tone King Imperial. Let's hear it. A lot of aliasing artifacts. The plugin does not have an oversampling function as far as I know. Some Neural plugins offer oversampling, like the Corey Wong, but the Imperial so far does not offer it. But we can use the Meta plugin. As you may notice, 4 times oversample do not improve aliasing at all. This actually tells me that maybe the Imperial is oversampled 4 times by default. Let's try to oversample it 8 times with a Meta plugin. Well, it does not work. Therefore, I think it is possible that the Imperial is oversampled 4 times by default. Obviously, 4 times is less than the 8 times of the Mercurial plugin, that in fact was able to remove more aliasing artifacts from the signal, as we have verified previously. And now let's talk about NAMM. Also, NAMM is affected by aliasing, and pretty heavily I would say. Let's hear it. Unfortunately, we cannot use our Meta plugin with NAMM, as it basically completely ruins our tone. Let's hear it. I have not understood exactly why. If you know, please drop a message in the comment section below. Okay, but I still want to talk about some partial solutions we may adopt. Well, I have two options for you. The first one is pretty simple. First of all, let's hear the real amp counterpart comparing the two waveforms. As you can notice, the problems are located especially in the high frequencies. You may have noticed that the real amp has much less high frequencies than NAM, and actually I hear pretty distinctively a disturbing hiss in the NAM high frequencies. I don't know if this is only related to aliasing or also to how neural networks work, but this is a fact. The hiss is actually present, and we can avoid it simply applying a low-pass filter. In fact, it is not affecting the core of our sound, and actually the low-pass filter improves the tone a lot, in my opinion, almost removing the hiss. Another strategy we have is to train our profile with a much more complex neural network architecture. I mean, the one I have showed with my previous videos. This can run only in pretty powerful computers, but it reduces a bit the high frequency problem, as you may notice from the EQ curve in the screen. As you know, in my opinion, NAM sounds great, and this high frequency is the only weakness of the solution I have noticed. Maybe it is derived from aliasing, and I think it is something which is worth investigating to enhance even more the quality of the amazing NAM plugin. And please notice that you may have multiple aliasing problems in your mix when you have, for instance, many saturation plugins in your song. Also, saturation plugins that actually are not related to guitar may introduce aliasing. For instance, if you want to simulate the saturation of a Neve console in your mix pass, it may introduce aliasing. Therefore, if you have many aliasing problems, altogether they may contribute to have less clarity in your overall mix. But it is definitely up to you to decide whether aliasing is a problem or not. Now, let me give you some theory about aliasing. Let's say you are Spock from Star Trek and you want to measure how long lasts a day in the planet Earth, but you are in Vulcan. Okay, if you measure the light of the sun in Italy, let's say every 24 hours at 9 AM, it seems that in Italy the night never comes. Okay, so what do you have to do? Well, you need to increase the number of samples you actually take. So for instance, if you take two samples, one at 9 AM and one at 9 PM, well, you start understanding that there is a difference in the light and you start seeing the night and the day. The same principle applies when we want to translate an analog waveform into the digital world. At any given frequency, we need at least two samples to translate it in the digital world. Therefore, if we want to convert a signal at 20 kHz, we need at least to sample it at 40 kHz in order to take two samples. Actually, as you know, we use at least 44.1 kHz, as we can hear frequencies from 20 to 20 kHz. And please take into consideration that this is for sure a not precise explanation of the Nyquist-Shannon theorem, Okay, but what happened with the distortion? Well, distortion generates overtones. So if you have a note, for instance, at 8 kHz, well, when you apply a distortion, you are gonna create overtones that go far beyond your sampling frequency. Actually, those frequencies are entering into the multiverse and they are returning back into your tone at lower frequency. This is what aliasing actually is. I know this explanation is not 100% correct, but this is the way I have understood it, and that's why aliasing only applies to the digital world and not to the analog one. I want really to thank here No Talk Guitar, as he has pointed out this problem many times, and I was not taking it seriously into consideration, where actually he was right and I was wrong. I want also thank Francesco from Riperiani, which is an Italian YouTube channel, where I found a very clear explanation of what aliasing is, and he also provides some nice tips to avoid it or to deal with aliasing. Thank you so much for watching and see you soon.